Hello, 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 everybody, and
Good
welcome to
morning
Health, Wealth, and Relationships with
with Tisa.
and Grant. We got a great show today. We got a really good show. Tisa always puts these things together, and like a month ahead, and we start thinking through these things. Like, is this something we really want to talk about? So today we're going to talk about PSTD. Tisa, why did you pick this subject for today's show?
Well, and it's PTSD. You have a little dyslexic on the letters.
I got
PTSD.
problems. I got my own problems.
So, good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's a beautiful summer, almost like it's not quite summer yet, but summer like day in Omaha. So yeah, we're gonna start with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that is just like it sounds. It's something that has happened to you that was traumatic, and you are having some effects from that trauma. And so everybody really goes through trauma. Let's just start there. Trauma is any event that happened in your life that's catastrophic, that you'll remember, that you were directly involved in, that was very extreme. And so that could be, and people, when they think of PTSD, they only think of veterans, right? Because of the war, obviously people who are involved in wars, and the PTSD for veterans comes a lot of different ways. Yes, they might have been physically in the war and seen, heads blown off and arms and limbs and bloody stuff. But they also might be mentally in the war with themselves, because if you're in the service, you got to serve no matter what, whether you agree with the war or not. So I kind of think about our troops now that might be in this war that we didn't ask for, and all of a sudden you got to serve. And so mentally, how does that manifest in your brain? Like, in terms of, like, I'm over here killing families and doing things, and it's just like, mentally and morally, I don't agree with it. So you can get PTSD from that, because you still have to do your job as a service person. But how is that affecting your mental? How's that affecting your moral compass and all that kind of thing? So it doesn't have to necessarily be from veterans, but veterans are definitely the first thing people think of when they think of PTSD. What do you think of when you hear those letters?
Well, as I'm gonna put it in, you see, everybody, I've got my African gear on today, and I put this on because Juneteenth is tomorrow. Juneteenth is tomorrow, and as we think about that, that is an event that occurred in 1865, right? But we got to think about the African American experience is really one big 300, 400 year traumatic event. You know, I think we all
Black and living in America, right? And we have that built-in trauma for being Black and being enslaved, right? So it is a built-in trauma, but even since then, it's an ongoing lifestyle for us, right?
It's a conversation that keeps coming up because you're constantly reminded of that. So here we are, we're going to celebrate Juneteenth, understanding like, hey, yeah, we're freed from that. But then it constantly reminds you of that, that was those circumstances that you could not control. Here we are, when 2026, and we're still reliving our version of that,
Our version.
episode. Yeah,
Absolutely. Because it hasn't gone away. And sadly enough, the trauma for Black people has not gone away. From Rodney King to 20, 30 years ago to, the Minnesota people to, all of that is just
George Floyd. Yeah,
George Floyd. All of it is just, and all the other people that have gotten shot and abused, and why we have all of these attorneys that are constantly fighting for rights, for just equal rights, not to be shot while being Black, not to be shot in our homes, not to be shot while walking down the street, not to, all of these things have happened to us in recent years, right? Kids, autistic men are just walking down the street, you fit the profile, shot, or choked, or foot on the neck and hands, or physically abused, where, it's just like we're still going, what the hell?
And here's the deal: even if it didn't happen to you directly, you're hearing about it. You're constantly involved in it. So if you are a Black male, and to your point, you're just going down the street, or you could be riding your car, it's in the back of your mind. So
Absolutely.
when the police pull you over, you're thinking, is this a life or death situation? Where other people, they're not thinking about a life or death situation, but yet it's in your back of your mind. So that's part of that post-trauma that you're talking about, right?
Right. And, to the point where our families had to teach us how to drive and what to do when you get pulled over and all that. Have the talk, right? We talked about the talk. Have the talk. I have two sons. So as a Black mother, I have to always have my talk with my sons. You are Black no matter what. And so I have my oldest son who primarily grew up with Caucasian and hung out with white people. And I always still had to remind him, dude, I know you think you are in like Flynn and you have always just been in this world with them, but trust and believe you need to act like this if y'all put over, if y'all in a situation, because they're white. And I didn't want him to think that, because you grew up with white people, that you're going to get treated the same. And so I still gave him the talk. He still knows how to be a Black male in public, even around his white friends, right? Because you might be the only one to get the Billy Club just for saying something, and everybody else is
true.
It's still true. It's so true.
It's something you don't really want to think about. You're just like, oh, we're past that. We're post civil rights era. But then the facts of the matter speak differently. The facts tell us all the time of this trauma and this drama that we're seeing. Like, man, I thought the trauma was over, but the drama still continues. Right.
So. And the drama brings the trauma. The drama brings the trauma. And so PTSD is real. I just want people to know it's not a it's not something that people make up. It's something that happens to you in many different ways. It could be in the service, but cancer brings trauma, right? As a post-cancer person, cancer-free for 14 years now, hallelujah. Cancer brings trauma because it's an ongoing worry that you'll get cancer again. And it's just kind of like you never get out of that heightened state. So where you're in trauma and you were in a heightened state of trauma, that's the PTSD. That's like you're up here all the time.
Yeah.
When you should be able to relax, and your brain is always in kind of that fight or flight mode, regardless of what you're doing. And so it affects your mental. So a car accident could give you trauma, right? Like you keep reliving seeing that car come at you and getting hit and jolted. It jolted your brain, it jolted your body. Accidents can bring trauma.
Let me ask you this, Tisa, because you're a 14-year cancer survivor.
Yes, sir.
When you go into your mammograms, do you feel that anxiety? Like, is this the day that it comes back? And how do you feel when you're going through that?
I think I did maybe for the first 5 years, because the 5-year hump is a real thing for breast cancer survivors to get over your 5-year. I think that first 5 years, it's always going to, but look, I'm 14 years out and I've been walking in purpose for 9 years. So for me, I still don't get really nervous about it. I already know what's going to be good. I know it's going to be clear, but there's always like 1% of thy little body or your little brain going, we better make sure this is good. This better not be the year I get the bad news. So yeah, to your point, yeah, we do. I'm lying. It's not as bad as it used to be, right? I used to get like super nervous and pray before, and I always pray before. But I already know that God's got me, and I'm walking in purpose now. So for me, it's not as nerve-wracking. I know I'm not going to die from cancer. I'm here to prevent others from getting cancer and also help them through that journey. So I got work to do. So I'm going to be here for a minute. You know what I'm saying?
We want you here
I got work to do.
For sure. This syndrome is a big thing. I remember when we had Eric Ewing on the show, and he had talked about him, just doing a presentation in front of some grade school kids. And one of the grade school kids had asked him, like, hey, have you ever been shot? And he's like, where is that coming from? Why would you think that I would have been shot? But it was all coming from, this is the kind of information that he's getting, whether it's social media, he's watching the news. He's like, oh, wow, you look like an older veteran. You said you served in the war. You must have gotten shot. And then, so like, no, that's not the case. But some of that trauma and drama is just we promote it all the time. And because of that, there's always that type of thing. Even like when you hear on the news, hey, somebody got shot today. What are you thinking? Oh, were they Black? Like, wow, why do you think that? And like, but because it's constantly being brought to us every day. We're only 13% of the population, but guess what? 90% of the news is about a Black man getting shot. Dang there every day in the United States. How do we explain that?
Well, and then part of that is just the propaganda against Black people still, because we know that white people's out there shooting people too, right? but it doesn't get covered, and there's some shooting going on in the hood, but there's shooting going on everywhere. And so the way it's reported is it just seems like it's only going on in the hood, right? It seems like it's only black people shooting, because they make sure they say black man,
Well, as a
6 foot
fact,
tall. The descriptions are thrown out there.
they admitted in Kansas City, and I can't remember which news outlet it was, they admitted that they intentionally would report more crime in the black populations on purpose, for the very fact of what you're talking about. So
They
we need to
admitted
be
it.
aware of these things.
They admitted it.
They admitted it. Yeah.
Oh wow! I wish some of our stations would admit it. I had to call a station on on saying blackmail, and then when it was a white crime, they wouldn't say white anything. They would just say assailant 5'4" to 6 foot, some
Yeah.
general ass statement, and then I knew they were white, right? Because they never said the color. We know
Yeah.
they say the color when it's a black person.
Now
They never
they
say the
brought
color.
it to
So I'm
their
like, oh,
attention.
okay, we get
Yeah.
height when it's white. We get the height when it's white.
So going back to that original, so you think about the whole slavery, the aftermath of that whole thing, the redlining, the Jim Crow, you're like all this,
Change forms.
and then you say, well, we're causing all the crime, but all this crime has been pushed on us, but now we're the criminals. So we're causing all the crime. You're like, wow. So this causes this mental disorder, this contradiction that's constantly happening in your mind, and it puts you on alert. That's what we're talking about, with this kind of syndrome and what it is. It puts you on high alert, and you kind of stay in that stuck mode and not actually come down to a normal state.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder why we're stressed. So black people, get your therapy. I don't, and then we're the ones who say, we don't do therapy. We don't, and we're the most traumatized culture. We're the
Right.
most traumatized culture. So if nobody needs therapy, we need therapy.
Group therapy,
If anybody,
right?
and really, and I have these conversations with my son all the time, because he's always thinking of the other cultures that are, he's always thinking of the Latinos, the Asians, he's always bringing up their plight. And I'm like, dude, always remember, we are not the same in terms of our trauma, in terms of our history and connection to this country. We're not the same. They all came here because they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Did we?
Yeah. Different
And they can't ever claim that, and we can only claim that. So it's different. So I have empathy for those people. I have empathy for all the people who's getting rounded up and sending back and all whatever. I have empathy for all the ICE victims if they are being treated wrong. But we get treated wrong every day. They ain't getting shot.
No, nah, I don't hear about that most of the time. But
Those
are those.
But these people that they're detaining, they might be now being a penitentiaries, a situation or whatever. But the bottom line is they chose to come here, and not get papers or whatever to be legal. It's just, that's just the result of how they entered the city. So I got empathy, but we got our own problems, and we got problems daily, right? We still worried about getting shot, right? I don't think they have that same concern, even as Latinos. I don't think they think, they might get sent back. They might get thrown into a detaining facility, jail, whatever, but you're still alive. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even think their trauma right now is worse. It's just us being black. So again, I'd be having empathy, but I'd be like, damn, where's our empathy and sympathy? We deal with it daily. They don't want to act like it is. They don't want to act like, we've overcome. We have so not overcome. We have so not, and with an authority in the president's, his cabinet is all about erasing our history, erasing black people, sending all the minorities back to their country. I don't know who he thinks going to work for this country, why he's sending everybody back. But, when it's just a constant, again, worry and fear, are we going to get scooped up? Are we going to need papers too as black people? I mean, what? It's a fear, right? It's just another layer of fear. Like what? I don't know. It's a thing, and that's just being black.
It's a very real thing, and but that's I think part of that. To me, in my experience of being in America for my whole life, is that you have these two different themes going on. You have one that says, this country is for everybody, is for one. You can come here, you can work, you can attain the American dream. That's what it's about. And then you have this other that says, no, we have to limit you on purpose,
Yeah.
intentionally,
Right.
systematically, so you do not get ahead. So you're like, well, what is going on here? So you have these mixed messages that are government led. This is not just, a group of people that just don't like you one day. This
Right.
is the
Right. Right.
system that really is not working for you. It's actively working against you. So now we're starting to realize, oh, well, you need money in order to live in this world. So if I limit your ability to have capital and money and access,
Yep.
obviously you're going to have these situations. So look how we are living. So anyway, not to get away from the subject, which is this
Look,
syndrome.
we can spend all day being Black and traumatic.
See, we're solving all of those things. So we definitely need some group therapy about it. But we're not the only one, because we're, as you said, if you're the one going to war and you come back and then you're experiencing these things, everybody's involved in this. And we all like, wow, we've created a real mess. How are we going to heal from this whole thing together? Because you didn't just do it to yourself, so that you had help, a lot of help in doing these things. And so all these conditions that we've talked about maybe for the last 25 weeks, about why do we have these health disparities? All of this comes back to this experience that we've had over the last 2 or 3 years that kind of led to all these things, that you don't have wealth. So now you're going to have poor health and you're going to have poor relationships, and it's all cyclical.
It's all cyclical. It's all cyclical. That's a good word. That's a
It
hot
all
word.
works together. Yeah, kind of sad.
And so when
But
you're talking about even our community, we're just sticking about our community, the violence in our community, like you said, it brings it, but the grief. So, we always think about the violence, but that is a living person that has died. So there's so much grief in the community from mothers that have lost the kids. And so you got all this violence that brings trauma. And then the grief from the trauma brings you more trauma. And so it's just constant trauma in the community, right? Constant grief. And even when you lose a loved one that you've been really close to, that's trauma. That's
yeah, for
considered
sure.
trauma. And
Yeah.
have you noticed some people never get over a loved one? Like, you know anybody who just literally died from grief, like died from a broken heart?
Yeah.
I've known a person who died from a broken heart.
Yeah, those are not.
Yeah, they don't.
I literally thought my grandmother was definitely going to have that kind of experience after I had to tell her why my father had passed, because it made no sense. It was very traumatic how it all happened. It was very drama. So now, and I had that experience because now I've got to deliver that news to. I'm thinking, wow, I got to tell her this, and then I'm expecting another death in the family, because it was just that kind of sad. So those things are very, very real. But what we're talking about, how do we deal with that, right? How do we, first you have to recognize you have some issues around that. And then like, I'm jumpy, right? Because of situations. What are we doing about that? Any tips that you can give around that?
Well, let's just start with it's treatable. So again, it's a real mental condition. And let's not minimize it. So like you said, recognize it. Some of the signs to recognize is just, first of all, recognize it. So anxiety, like if you're someone who's had just a overwhelming amount of anxiety, could be in post-traumatic stress disorder mode, in real in-depth memories of something, real intrusive thoughts and memories of something that's happened in your past, like I think I've shared that I've been molested as a teenager. Some of those thoughts never go away. So you have these intrusive thoughts, and then those behaviors show up differently as adults. So a lot of people who have been touched their kids become pedophiles themselves. That if they've been touched by an adult as a child, that kind of thing, or they just have inappropriate relationships. It's hard to just kind of know what's a real relationship, what's not, depending on who your intruder was. And so and a lot of women have gone through post-traumatic stress disorder. They don't even know they have, if they've been touched as a child, if they've been molested as a young lady or whatever, even as an adult. Those things shows up in your relationships. And so again, recognizing those things is the main thing. Hypervigilance is another one. You just are so determined about stuff to the point where you're just crazy about something. You're hypervigilant about a task, hypervigilant about a cause. Those are some signs. So we're looking for signs here. Emotional numbness. So if you know anybody who's come back from a service, like this is when I think of veterans. It's an emotional numbness. They don't know how to function in society. They only knew one way to be as a soldier, and then when they get thrown back into the community, it's like what's my role now? Right. So they become numb, they become withdrawn. So we got to keep those veterans connected and keep people connected like in those states, because emotional numbness is a real thing. Irritability, obviously, if they snapping and going off on you and they just like, that's one of the most noticeable things. If you just snapping at people, that's menopause too, y'all. I'm just kidding. That can be menopause, that can be PMS, that can, but it also can be PTSD, and then avoidance behaviors, not wanting to do anything, not wanting to get up and live life, not wanting to participate in life, not wanting to go to church, not wanting to go to social events, do anything, just want to be in the house. Those people might be going through some PTSD. So those are signs to look for. And just recognize like 6% of adults in America experience PTSD. That seems small, but I think it's a lot more because people really going to get treated about it. They don't say, hey, I got PTSD. They're just dealing the best way they can every day and not even knowing.
And I think that stat, what you're talking about, that stat is just for veterans. You're not talking about the entire population. Most people have had some kind of trauma that have occurred. Everybody deals with it differently. You just don't realize that it's
it says U.S. adults will experience PTSD. 6% of us.
I think it's more. I think it's a lot more than that, because I think most people have gone through some kind of, and it's not so much, you've gone through some things in your life that were kind of, you look at them, they were setbacks that just stopped you in your tracks. You didn't see that coming. A lot of people do. But how are you carrying forward, or do you realize you're carrying that baggage along? It's something that was there that you didn't realize how it was affecting you as you went forward in your relationships with other people, that you're carrying for this type of feeling. I point to the feeling a lot of people have what they call imposter syndrome. It happens a lot in corporate America. They feel that they have to take on a role to be someone else. You can't be your authentic self. Well, why is that? Why are you taking on this persona, this performative self, and not just being your true self? That's because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to be my true self, because I may be limited. I may be ostracized. I may be this or that. When you have this feeling and this fear, and then what does that come from? And you really unpack that, you find out a lot of that is from a community fear that you might have. It's something that you've witnessed, something you've seen. I don't know how many people refer, and I talked to a lot of people, especially in Florida, around that whole George incident, because they said, wow, I saw this person actually murdered on live television, not something that was in a history book, not something that was Medgar Evers that we heard about. No, I saw this. And then he saw the reaction that came out of that. And you're like, wow, this guy could be murdered on the street by somebody that's supposed to be protecting us. And now we're fighting about it? Like, dude, that was murder. What is the problem? So there's a lot of conflicted understanding with that. Is that, am I on the same par or am I not on the same par? And how do I have to react or act? Because I have, to your point, to your son, like, it's a different standard. Whether we want to say it or not out loud, it is, because the facts bear it out.
Absolutely. It's a real thing. And not to be minimized at all. Let me give you at least some therapies. There's hope. Let's remember that there's hope for it. It's treatable. And really recognizing the symptoms and then asking for the help, or getting that loved one the help. You might see the symptoms and they really may not. But getting that person some help is the main thing. Trauma does not define you. So I would say go get some of those therapies. Some of those therapies can include cognitive, and I don't know what these all mean, but they're all very medically technical phrases. But cognitive processing therapy is out there. I'm sure that's just about really processing what happened to you, really bringing it to life and then letting it go. I think that's what that is, because I've kind of experienced some of that myself. Prolonged exposure therapy, that's therapy that that's stuff that happens all the time. That's stuff that living while Black. That's stuff that kids that in gangs have to deal with. That kind of stuff. Those are prolonged. So exposure, that means you're exposed to something that you may not get out of the situation, but you gotta be able to deal with that situation. So if it's a lifelong situation that's gonna bring you trauma, it's just really trying to deal with that situation, And then trauma-focused therapies. Trauma-focused therapies is it's just focused on whatever trauma that happened to you, like a specific incident, and then it's focused on that specific incident. It's not like being black, right? Being black is an ongoing thing. We can't change it. We have all the different experience being black, but this is specifically talking to an incident, having cancer, being in a car accident, something, an incident that happened that you can work through the trauma with. So the therapies are out there. I would just say tap into them, get referred to them. CHI is real big on mental health the last few years, they've changed their focus to mental health. So, get the help you need. Recovery is possible. Healing and support takes time, though. I just want people to know it's not something like going to get your kidneys taken out, or it's a long-term thing that's going to take some long-term therapy for, and that's okay.
Totally get that. I agree with that. And to your point, coming to you an awareness of like, do I have some type of disorder as it has been described, and being around a lot of other people that I know, it is something that's there. It's there. It's just a matter of, can you pinpoint it, and then can you get to the right therapy that's going to really help. Sometimes you can't change. Like I can't change being African American in America, right? But I love talking to my African brothers over there in Nigeria and in Ghana and U.S. Virgin Islands. They don't have that syndrome because it's like, well, that's not an experience that I have. Like, well, how does that feel?
So they're saying they don't have the experience of being black in America?
No, because they're in Ghana. That is not a deal. That is just not something they have to deal with.
Ghana. Oh, yeah, okay.
Ghana,
well, of course, yeah. Well, of course, they're not here. If you don't live here, you can't experience the trauma of being here.
That's the problem. See, our historical experience that we normally start from a place of slavery. That's a bad place to start. We should be starting in a place that was not the case in our history and our knowledge and our understanding of life. But we start there. So we start in a place of trauma. That's bad. And as an origin. So if we get beyond that, how do we get beyond that? Is it teaching our populations and our culture that from the total African experience, like, no. We have thousands of years of experience that we should be talking about as an origin story, not that particular story that was 400 or 500 years ago. That's a point of trauma. We have to get beyond that.
Yeah, we have to get beyond that. And really, like I was trying to say, kind of during Black History Month, we really say, instead of focusing on the trauma, get help for the trauma, recognize and get help for the trauma, but don't live in keep twirling in the trauma. What I mean by that, I don't know if you have a dog, but dogs sometimes will go out and roll in their own poop. It's like, stop rolling in your own shit.
Right.
We got to be able to recognize it, get help for it. We can't sit back and complain about it without trying to do something about it, just like our health. We can't sit there and say, I know I'm bad, but I'm not going to change. I'm not going to eat better. I know I'm hypertensive and I know it, but I'm not going to do anything. We can't be that defeatist in their attitude. You have to be like, okay, now what? Just like I did with the cancer. I can't change stuff, nothing about getting diagnosed. But when I got diagnosed, I had just prayed and said, now what, Lord? So we have to go with it. Well, now what? Are we going to continue to be affected in a negative way? Are we going to start dealing with that trauma? And then, like you said, drawing on our strengths. We are a supernatural being, really. If you think about Black people, we are athletic. We are smart. We have come up with so many inventions and really tap into all of the things that we've done good for this country. Start changing that narrative and reminding people what we've done good for this country, because you live in the narrative that the white people give us. We're a bunch of people that shoot each other, can't get along, kids are off the chain, systematically set up that way. Yes, it's true. But if we rise to the kings and queens that we are, we can change that whole narrative. We start really focusing on all the contributions, how smart we are, how athletic we are. That's their fear, right? So they know our greatness. So that's why they got to keep putting us in this box. They know our greatness. And that's the biggest fear of the system of most white people. It's the fear. Because really, you start thinking about it, why are we taking over sports? Because we are so that athletically inclined. We can do anything. And I'm sorry, they can't.
You got to get to your point, because when your origin story starting in areas like Timbuktu, there was a humongous, great African society, right? Songhai, great African society. You start talking about Grenada during that time, great African society in Europe, really that started the whole European world. But if you can't teach people that you're suppressing those types of things, because then they will be like, oh God, I'm not what you put me into, this subhuman state at all. I'm nothing like that. But that's how they've been able to control the population for so long. So we, at this point, people ask me, Mr. AI guy, say, hey, use intelligence, get information, understand far beyond this whole colonialism world. That was just a little 500 year setback. We have thousands of years of history, thousands of experiences that we can draw on to get us out of that syndrome and that trauma that occurred. Like, wow, did you know we were doing this, we're doing that? And you're like, all right, I'm starting to feel better about myself and my confidence, and I understand where I can draw on for those positive resources that you just talked about. And then we can move forward from that state into a whole new world of living. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's going to get us better wealth, obviously, and it's going to improve our overall experiences and relationships for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when we talk about just getting over the trauma, we got to just learn to get along and start working together. When we pull our money and our resources, we're in the wealth section, we pull our money and our resources to our community. That's so much wealth we don't even understand. We spend a lot of money on cars. We spend a lot of money on hair products, women, and we spend a lot of money on clothing. So if we as a culture start thinking about, first, still spend that money, but how about making sure that you're representing and you're supporting a Black business that are doing hair, the money, the clothing, instead of taking that money out west. When we start supporting and pooling our funds, we can make things happen. But we got to start working together and supporting each other, even in that economic way, to begin moving the needle. We still take our money elsewhere instead of support each other. And so I say take tips off of 24th Street South and keep it in the community. Start supporting that one.
It's all about ownership. This is a game, whether you like it or not. This whole capitalism is a game. It's monopoly. It's about ownership.
Yeah.
So spending is just one part of that game, right? You have, they want you to spend, but you have to acquire assets. And understanding that is it. When you round in that board, you don't just collect, round the board, collect $200 and pounds go, and then pay rent. No, you got to keep moving forward to your ownership, whether it's home ownership and then business ownership, and then owning the block.
Stop buying cars. Stop buying cars.
What?
Stop buying cars. Black men are so wrapped up in cars. Buy a house.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? I know people that got 10, 11 cars. Okay, first of all, you can only drive one car at a time. How much are you putting? And again, we're talking about how much money putting you to your health and your wealth. How much money do you put into them cars? And then you got 5, 6 cars. You got to insure. You got to keep up. You got to keep the maintenance up. That's just money into something that loses its value as soon as you drive it off the car lot.
After 20 years, it might get some value, but yeah, it's a money pit. Most cars.
You're not keeping those 5 cars for just what classics? What do y'all call them? Yeah. Classic cars. Hey, get one classic car, put your money into it, but put as much money into your health.
Yeah,
we got some brothers in the comment. Put some money into your health. I'm not even reading the comments. I'm sorry. You do that well. As much as you do it to your vehicles. That's all I'm saying, brothers. I just love it. Go check yourself out as much as you check your car out.
Yes.
Things ain't ticking right. Going to the doctor. I want to encourage all men to get a primary care. I would love to see a hands up if we had some live people who do not have a primary care, because it really starts there. That's where you start taking in charge of your own health. It's you making an appointment, and doing your due diligence. Find a primary care that matches your vibe, right? Yeah. I ain't gonna see nobody who don't understand me. Like, I'm a free spirit. I talk very candid when I go to my doctor. I want you to be the same. I want you to kind of have that same vibe. I want you to be, well, what's going on, Miss Harden? I want you to be like, what's up, Tisa? What's going on with you? You still doing this? You know what I'm saying? Know you. That's how the relationship should be with your primary care, because that's the person who knows all of your history. You ain't gotta tell them every time you go to a new doctor, what's your family history? They know your family history. You don't have to do the board every time. If you're doing a family history every time you go to a doctor, that means you probably don't have a primary care, and you're going somewhere different, and you're going somewhere new. That's the cycle you want to stop. You want to get one person to be looking over your whole history and looking over your kids' history and looking over your parents' history, right? Because it all is a part of you. Stick with that one person, go to that one person once a year, and let that person guide the rest of your health. Let that person tell you if you need to see a specialist, because you got to get a referral from a primary care. So get that primary care. I'm just stress. Almost remind me to stress that every time. Get a primary
I
care.
had mine yesterday. I had my annual physical
Yes, you
yesterday. I
did.
know my numbers. I know my blood
Know your numbers.
pressure, my weight, and everything, so I can see the variance. I had a great conversation with them, waiting for my blood results today. But that's mandatory. It's just like I take my car in to get oil change. If I'm not going in to do the same for myself, the same for
That's it.
myself.
Once a year.
Wow.
And you can go oil change is every 300, 3,000 miles, whatever.
Depends on the car. My goal is in once a year, so depends on.
Once a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least do that once a year. I thought it would have to oil change more, but yeah. I just implore you, just take care of yourself. Deal with any trauma in your life. And if you've had some traumatic experiences. Mine was molestation. Mine was cancer. Even the loss of my parents, kind of like, because it was kind of at the same, I don't know. That can be a traumatic experience. Some people, grief is a real thing. So get therapy for your grief. Get grief counseling so you'll understand the emotions you're going through. There's cycles, but grief is all over. I'm just going to tell you, both of my parents are gone. Grief is all over. It comes and goes. One minute I'm handling it good. The next minute I'm crying for no reason. Then I'm going through pictures and I'm sobbing, right? Then I'm having just elations where I'm blessed, right? Because my parents have gone 10 and 12 years now, like roughly, but it still seems like yesterday. But every year gets more like, you know what? They gave you what you need to survive, right? Be blessed about the upbringing that I've had, that I had both parents in the house, that I had both working parents in the house, that we didn't really struggle a lot. Those are just, it turns into gratefulness. It turns into gratefulness and just a sense of they did their job. And as a parent, I'm going to do my job. I'm trying to do my job with my boys. That's what we're here for. Do our jobs, build these wonderful people that can survive without us, unfortunately. But they're never gone. They're never really gone. So just understand that people who have lost parents, it gets a little easier every year. They're never gone. And it turns into a different relationship because you can talk to them. They're in the spirit world, the spirit realm or whatever. Keep talking to them. Keep conjuring them up. Keep dreaming them. Keep whatever. The spirit is still there.
Well, love is a great healer. All these
love is a wonderful healer.
Love is a wonderful healer. So many different worlds. You have to connect with that source. You have to connect with the source of love for you in your life. What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? That is what counteracts all these negative feelings, things that you're holding on to. And to your point, because that's part of life. We all go into the visible, back into an invisible world. They're there. They're just in a different world. But to your point, they gave you part of their life and part of their story that's helping you on your journey. And you have to appreciate that. And it takes time. It's not like you just jump into that. It took time for when my father passed, it took time when my brother passed.
It does. Yeah, right. I see my parents and myself.
How do I begin to compartmentalize all these things so it makes more sense and I can use it as fuel for me to move forward, not backward, not stay limited, and understanding how I can get this in front of me and not inside of me, right? This whole thing we're talking about with the PTSD, if that's inside of you, you got to get it outside of you, right? Get that outside of you, because within you should be a place of love. And that's how I move in my world.
Yep. Deal with your trauma. Trauma happens every day. And just like any health issues might pop up every day, deal with your trauma. Whatever comes up, that might be getting pulled over, that might be getting or whatever, but deal with your trauma. Talk to it about somebody. If that ever happened to my kids, I want them to come to me immediately. That's dealing with the trauma. That's like, okay, this happened. This guy got pulled over. This guy did this, blah, blah, blah. And then I can reassure them, that's part of your life. But this is how you should act. You can release that. You can be angry about that. Yes, it's unfair. That's dealing with the trauma. You are okay to feel any kind of way you want to about that. You're okay to even hate police for whatever reason. It's just deal with the trauma. Put it back in perspective, right? Like you're not the only one who happened to. You won't be the last. And if this ever happens again, it just deal with the trauma. However that looks, I say seek help for your trauma. Know it's okay. Dealing with your trauma is strength. It's not weakness. It's more of a weakness not to deal with your trauma, because then you're just all over the place with the
I hear
symptoms, and you don't know what to do with the symptoms. But dealing with your trauma is actually strength.
100% everything you just said. We want to make sure that everybody really leans in on these things. Number one, like she said earlier, PTSD is not only for veterans, right? And I think it says civilians account for more PTSD related national cost and violence, cancer, childbirth, all these different things. So understand that PTSD is not just for veterans. It is for veterans. Don't get that wrong either.
It's
But it's
anything,
for
anybody
everybody.
who's experienced trauma. PT is the trauma.
Yeah. There's a lot, a
Those
lot
trauma.
of trauma. So it's not someone weak. As you said, a lot of people, this is how you get through this weakness, because you need some strength, and you get strength from other people. I get my strength from a place of love, and then you look for those sources of love. What does that look like in your social life, your relationships? What is your health condition, and what's going on? It's not a character flaw, but something that we care. And I always say, this is the myth buster. People should just get over it. Just get over it. Oh wow! So many people are going to delay that care for years through even though evidence-based treatments exist. We understand that you don't just get over it.
No.
And I want to implore this before I leave the stage today and understand this, because as we go into Juneteenth, and people are like, all right, that was back then, we should just be over it. You don't just get over something like that when it's constantly reinforced every day. It's constantly being reinforced. So it's not something you just get over. So you're going to have to get through it. So let's lock that in, understand we need to ask for help and start to move forward collectively to get to a better place.
Yeah, and you speak of Juneteenth before we go, because tomorrow is Juneteenth. Yeah. It's a celebration. Just like we have a celebration of life coming up for the Stuff for the Cure, Juneteenth is a celebration of our actual freedom, right? It's our actual freedom. So it's the Black people's actual freedom day of getting released from slavery. So celebrate Juneteenth, celebrate that freedom. If we did get it, it took them a while, but it's a celebration. And continue to celebrate the little things in life. That helps combat the trauma. If you balance celebrations and feeling good and really taking advantage of the good times, the bad times take a back seat. Don't focus on the trauma, focus on the good times. And I'm going to plug the Stuff for the Cure right now before we get off. June 27th, Stuff for the Cure. It's a celebration of life for cancer survivors. 14 years here. We have cancer survivors from people who have just got out of treatment to 27 years with Mr. Alan Black. So we are celebrating on the 27th in Metro Community College South Campus, the CAM building. Tickets are on sale now. I'm going to be posting. I'm going to get on live every day. Get tickets. Call me for tickets. If you want a paper ticket, any of the survivors or models have offered paper tickets. I will tag them. But 402-250-1716. It's on the flyer. That's my number. Call me for a paper ticket. We'll get them to you. It's $30 at the door. So I want you guys to make sure that you are getting your tickets ahead of time. We got 2 weeks, y'all. It's not this Saturday. It's next Saturday. So 2 weeks. You get a paycheck in between then. I already know y'all going to get paid. $25 general admission, $30 at the door general admission, $40 VIP seats. Pay that little extra for the VIP seat. You do get a mocktail drink and maybe some hors d'oeuvres, something. You may get something, but you do definitely get a mocktail drink and front row seats. Y'all in the front row. You ain't got nobody blocking you, ain't nobody in heads in front of you. Front row seating for that $40. Come out, support the cause, bring a cancer survivor, bring somebody who has beat cancer, bring somebody who's been affected. Everybody's been affected by cancer. So come out, grab a friend, family member, and come out on the 27th. Doors open at 4, food served at 5, show starts at 6 to 8, and y'all out of there by 8 o'clock, still can go do something else in the community.
On Saturday, I want to make special emphasis on survivors, cancer survivor, where they have survived this type of drama, everything. And we're going to celebrate that, right? They survived. That's a big thing. That's a life-threatening situation. Cancer usually doesn't, you're going to take your life in a couple of days. It takes time. So you're living with this fear of death for a long period of time. So then when you survive something like that, that is a cause for victory. So I applaud you for that.
And for celebration, absolutely. And, we live with the trauma every day, but Pink Lotus is about proactivity. And so if you want a group that really speaks life, that lives holistically, check us out, Pink Lotus Project Nebraska. Go to our website, pinklotusprojectne.org. You can get your tickets on our website. You can get tickets showing a QR code, or you can call me for a ticket. But check out our website for resources if you just need some cancer resources and connections. And look forward to working with the Urban League. Shout out to Marilyn Sims, we're going to be collaborating with the Urban League and Pink Lotus on bringing some of this information that we bring to health, wealthy relationships to you in the community, giving it a little more hands-on experience for learning.
I love it. I want a big shout out to my friend Peter Kiley. He's out there the second. He is a veteran. He has lived through this. He knows exactly what I'm talking about, and he helps veterans get through a lot of their drama. And think about those people that are now coming back from Iran. Hopefully that war is over. Sometimes you go through these things like, why am I in this situation? Did this make sense? I'm putting my life on the line. All those different types of emotions are going through. But I tell you, there's nothing like being in a situation where your life is in danger and you have to live through that. It will lock you into a state of mind that you don't want to be in all the time. So shout out to them. He helps a lot of different veterans out there. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for everybody for tuning in on the Health, Wealth, and Relationship Show. We're going to have a lot more guests on there. If you want to be a guest on the show, please reach out to either Tisa or Grant, and we will definitely tune you in. So thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Peace.
Imagine waking up with more energy, a peaceful mind, and relationships that grow stronger every day. That is the vision Tisa Harden and Grant McGaw want to help you achieve, and it all starts with simple, practical steps you can take this week. On Health, Wealth, and Relationships, every episode brings you real stories and trusted experts. Tisa and Grant focus on 3 tactical steps each week. Small, doable moves that protect your health, grow your savings, and bring you closer to the people you love. No complicated rules, just real progress. Try a clinic-to-kitchen swap to boost your energy. Start a money buffer habit that quietly builds your financial confidence. Or try a 1-minute exercise that helps you reconnect with your partner. These quick wins are not chores. They are steps toward a better life. People who try just one intentional step report more energy, less money stress, and evenings full of laughter again. Join Tisa and Grant. Start small, live bigger. Tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and subscribe now.